Okay, well, good morning, everyone. It is 11 o'clock. The recording has already started. We have a lot of slides today. I'm going to go through them really quickly, but you will have them for review after the fact, and you will also have Alyssa and me to contact for any questions. So this is meant as an overview and for me to point out, for us to point out things you should pay attention to this year. And I am Sue Lynn Jones. I'm the Deputy Administrator of the Nevada State Library Archives and Public Records. I was recently the LSTA coordinator. We also have Alyssa Erickson, who is our new LSTA coordinator. She started about 2 months ago. So I have not forced her to lead this webinar. We're kind of in a tag team. So welcome to the 2025 LSTA Nevada subgrant season. I'm excited. We are ready to go. Okay, so this is Teams. If you aren't familiar with Teams, there's a little raised hand. If you have a question during any of this, raise your hand. I'm going to go really fast, so I may not even stop for you to even say a word, so raise your hand. Okay. Here's our agenda, 7 items about LSTA, because I always like to start with the about part. I'm going to go over community grants, which is a software portal, things that are new for 2025, some things that you should keep in mind when you're preparing to write your application, the application structure and why it exists the way it is, because it is not, I don't know if it's unique or not to other grant applications, but it is very structured, right? And you need to figure out how to take the project that's in your brain or on a piece of paper and fit it into our structure. Then we'll talk about the review and ranking process and then wrap it up and then let you go start and write your grants. Okay. What I hope you're going to get from this by attending live is the whys behind our process, why we do things the way we do, the purposes and priorities of Nevada LSTA, when to use the grant software, and just getting a better understanding, as I said, of the LSTA application structure that's directly tied to IMLS's measuring success framework. You'll have a better understanding of the review process. If you haven't done LSTA for a while, we had a very different process before where State Council on Libraries and Literacy reviewed the grants. So now we've gone to peer review, and I feel that it has been a move for better, right? But it's different if you haven't done this before. And then who to contact if you have questions, and that is Alyssa. Alyssa, please, I've been doing all the talking. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Melissa Erickson. I am, as Sue Lynn said, I'm new here. Started on March 17th, and I'm excited to get started with the subgrant process. Things have been a bit of a roller coaster with IMLS, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do this year. We will dig a little bit more into our level of certainty and some new things for this year in just a little while. But I'm glad to be here, and my contact information is all over our website. So please feel free to reach out to me, email, phone, Teams chat, meetings. Love to get to know all of you and provide whatever support you're going to need. So back to Sue Lynn.
We'll also add that Alyssa is based in Las Vegas. We decided that it would be good to have a representative of the state library in the South. So even though most of what we do is totally doable via phone or email or virtual meetings, she's there in person. Yeah. Okay. So Alyssa, if you can put this link in the survey, in the chat, this is an instructional survey required by IMLS for all LSTA funded trainings that are geared at library staff. And since this is LSTA funded and this is a training and you are staff, we ask you to fill out this survey. If you are new to the program, this will give you an example of what the 4 IMLS required surveys are. You can test drive one. Okay. We'll also share the survey at the end. Okay, first, about LSTA. First things first, if you have been paying attention to our emails and what's going on in the world, IMLS has been in a strange situation in the past 2 months. There was an executive order. The executive order had a lawsuit placed against it. There is now a preliminary injunction in place. We weren't sure if we were going to get our 25 award. We got an award for 50% of our 25 award. We are hopeful that we will get an award for the second half of the funding. If we don't get an award for our second half, then we will not be able to issue the sub-grants. But as this says, we're cautiously optimistic that we will get that second 50%, which adds up to about $1 million. So yeah, we're doing fine. Okay. Okay. Now about LSTA. I always put this first because to me it's really important to understand that LSTA is in federal law. It is in federal code. It is authorized by Congress. Everything in here is something that your elected officials, your congressional representatives have opted to support and have chosen to fund. And those are the 3 US codes that are applicable to grants to states. You can look them up and read them. And if that reassures you, I do that a lot. It reassures me that what we're doing is legal and the money that we have has been authorized by Congress. Okay. These are the 8 priorities of the Grants to States program. I've bolded number 8 because it says carry out activities consistent with the purposes set forward in US Code 9121 and as described in the State Library's Administrative Agencies Plan. And that refers to our LSTA 5-year plan. So everything that we fund needs to be consistent with the purposes and priorities of 9121, 9141, and our 5-year plan. And our 5-year plan is consistent with 9121 and 9141, so you don't even have to look at those. But this is the legal framework for what our priorities are that are now your priorities. Okay, here is a look at our goals, those 5-year plan priorities that I just mentioned. We have 4, and they are meant to be able to support whatever library project that you have in mind. They're written very broad on purpose. Every single one of our goals lists subgrants underneath, so we are authorized with our federal money to offer subgrants to you. This plan was approved by IMLS in 2022, so we're on sure legal ground there. Okay. We'll talk about our award. So allotments are based on population. You can see what we've gotten over the years. There is a big jump between 22 and 23 because in those years, our base award went from about $830,000 to $1 million. So we get $1 million and then we get we get money based on the number of people who reside in the state. It's a formula. We expect to get about $2.2 million right this year. But we've gotten $1 million, as I mentioned. And again, this is set in public law, this formula, okay? Okay, with our allotment, we do statewide grants, statewide programs like youth services, continuing education. Let me stop. We allocate about 1/3 to statewide programs, 1/3 to statewide databases, and 1/3 to subgrants. It says at least 30%. It's plus or minus 30, 33%. It's around there. If we do not expend all of our funding on the statewide programs, then we do more subgrants. So in the past few years, more money is going to you hyperlocally. We have the competitive mini planning and CE. Those are our standard, right? Those are our standard grants. If we have funding that's unallocated, then we will figure out we will prioritize a new statewide project. And an example of that, if you were here, was the soundproof study pods project that we did last year. Okay. But you are here to apply right now for the competitive mini planning, or probably not CE, competitive mini planning. Okay. We always get questions about the timeline. It may not make sense to you. I don't know if this will help, but the money that was authorized by Congress in the continuing resolution was for 2025 funds, but IMLS gives us in the Grants to States program until September of 26 to expend these funds. So we get the funds, we bring them in. The state of Nevada still has to authorize us to be able to spend it, and that doesn't happen until July 1st. So even though we have a partial award right now, we don't have authority to actually grant it out to you yet. And then, yeah, we'll get this going, and we will expect all money to be spent by September 30th of 2026 for this year, 25. Eligibility is important. If you're new to this program and you're a public school academic or special research library, you have to be in compliance with the top bullet points, the top section. If you're a public school or academic, we have additional criteria for you. You have to certify that you meet eligibility requirements when you submit your application. Okay. If you're a tribal library or consortia, you have different standards. These are for, right, those group. Tribal library, you have two standards. Consortia have different. Library-related nonprofits, different. I'll tell you now that we only do subgrants at the moment to public school, academic, special, tribal, and consortia. We don't currently have any grant opportunities for nonprofit library-related organizations. So if you are one of those, we do not have opportunities for you at the moment. Okay. Okay. Quick run through. Any questions about any of that? Okay, now we're here for new for 25. Oh, look at that. We've done the consultations differently from year to year, and that's based on my perception of what's needed. We used to have required proposals. They were required. You didn't get to back out. If you didn't submit a proposal, you couldn't submit an app. We moved away from that because I feel that you're all, sorry, Sam, you're all able to manage your time properly. Last year we had optional consultations. That kind of went iffy for me personally, so now they're required. You cannot submit an app until you have a consultation with Alyssa and me. I'm gonna just be there in the background for support, but yeah. If you're doing a CE or travel to training grant, we highly encourage you to consult with Alyssa, but it's not required before. Okay, here's the fun stuff. Alyssa.
I knew you were going to hand this one to me.
Yeah.
All right, so we received an email from IMLS, 6 weeks ago, something like that, requiring us to, as the state library, to agree to abide by these executive orders. We had our legal counsel write a response to that, agreeing to these things, and it is not optional, and it is highly believed in amongst COSLA and other people within the state libraries across the nation that our further funding relies on our response to the email about these letters or about these executive orders that we were asked to agree to. And what that means is that because we have agreed to it, we have to also ensure that all of our subgrants are complying with these orders. If we do not, it risks the money for the entire state of Nevada being terminated. We've already seen that happen and get reinstated. It's been a bit chaotic, but this only applies to the grant funds, not to anything else in the library or anything in collection development or anything, any programming, anything that the libraries are doing. It only applies to your grant application and to the program or project that you're doing with the grant. I have the links here to these executive orders, and this is a big part of why we want to consult with you first and have the mandatory meeting with Sue Lynn and I prior to you writing your grant. It's just going to be very important that we are all kind of on the same page about what this means to the future of LSTA within the state of Nevada and how at risk our funds are. In no way is this the state library saying we have any opinion on the support of these executive orders. It just means that we are complying with them with our grant money to avoid the termination of our LSTA program. Sulin, do you want to add
Yes,
anything?
I do. If you didn't catch it, Alyssa said it several times. I'm going to say it several more times. These executive orders only apply to IMLS LSTA grants to
Yep.
states funds. It doesn't apply to anything that you do in your organization that is not funded by IMLS LSTA grants to states funds. If you have certain things that you are doing for any of these executive orders, and they're not LSTA funded, we are not concerned, right? We're not. We also did not put these in the certifications because we were not required to. We were required to answer these for us and guarantee that we would not use these funds in any way that was not compliant with the executive orders. Okay, say it one more time. Executive orders only apply to projects and programs that you are using LSTA funds to support. Okay? Okay. We are not putting the links in the chat on this. You are welcome to open up the PowerPoint when we post it after this and click and read all the executive orders so you fully understand how they may impact your proposed project. Okay? Okay. We'll move on. Also new for 2025 is whistleblower protections. This is a really interesting one. I encourage you to read 2 CFR 200.217. We put them in the assurances too. It says that any subgrantee has to tell all of their employees in writing what their protections are under the whistleblower protection CFRs. Right, so if you are funded, if your project application is funded, we, the state library, will notify you in writing of your protections under the Whistleblower Act. And you in turn must notify all of your employees in writing of the protections under the Whistleblower Act. Okay, that is new. Also new, if you ask for indirect cost rates, you can ask for up to 15% without a negotiated rate. You can just claim 15% without documentation. If you have a negotiated rate, please use that, but we do need your documentation for it. Okay. Remember that indirect costs are not on top of the award, they're included in the awards. They'll reduce your award that you have for the project by that much. If you claim 15%, then 15% goes to indirect and your project is 85%. Okay. Also new, and this is good news to me, equipment. It's gone from 5,000 to 10,000. If you've ever gotten equipment before, it's a process. We have to have IMLS pre-approve it, and IMLS is very low on staff at the moment. So it just makes your procurement processes a little bit more straightforward. Things that are $6,000 now just fall under general supplies. They're not equipment procurement. Okay. And then also new is SIPA, where SIPA lives. SIPA used to come at the end in all your big bundle of certifications. Now it lives within the grant application itself, and that is because people are submitting multiple applications and SIPA applied to some things and didn't, and it was getting a little messy and keeping track. So now it's just embedded in all of them. And if you SIPA applies to purchases that are for devices that connect to the internet or enable internet connection. So Wi-Fi routers, laptops, tablets, certain gaming devices, if they connect to the internet, you need to be SIPA. Children's Internet Protection Act. The only library that it doesn't apply to, the only library type is academics. They have been exempt. And if you read the SIPA Act, it only calls out public libraries, but I've had rulings from IMLS that if you're a law library and you are open to the public and those public members include children, then you have to be SIPA compliant. Yeah. So, okay. So that's new for 25. Okay. Next up is community grants. This is our software. The software is called the portal. I call it the portal. It's structured this way. We have organizational accounts. So Nevada State Library is an organization. And then we have user accounts. So Alyssa's a user, I'm a user. There will always only be one library account, but there will be multiple user accounts. And if you don't have either of these, you'll need to request one from Alyssa. And the way I operated, if I knew the person, I use that as vetting. If I didn't know the person requesting a user account, I would confirm with the director or my main point of contact with that library, because sometimes people ask for user accounts who don't need them. Be very careful about who you want to have a user access. It's not that they can do anything, but they will have access to all of your applications, and that's your internal processes and procedures, who on your staff you want to have access to all of your applications. If you have someone who had a user account and is no longer there, you can't deactivate them because they're gone, right? So we have to deactivate it. Alyssa will deactivate. Okay. Okay, so when to use community grants? If you are applying for a grant and you are the project and fiscal agent, right? This is also where we have some confusion. Community grants it's set up for the organization and the users. It's not set up for individual people. So the biggest confusion is when individuals apply for the travel to training grants, they can't apply in community grants. They have to apply in a different form that we have. And then the other time when you wouldn't use it is if we are the fiscal agent, like the study pods, the learning kits. If we are doing all the work and we're doing all the money, we have a different process for you to apply. Okay. Community grants does the whole thing from start to finish: application, the review, your reports, and your reimbursements. Anything that's not one of those, please send to the NSLAPR LSTA email. That's the official email, and it goes to the LPD group, and it ensures that emails that are about your projects don't get lost in somebody's inbox, that everyone has a chance to see them. Okay, this is what community grants looks like on the user end. You're going to go to apply. And if it doesn't exist in apply, then the grant doesn't exist. It hasn't been posted yet. So if you go to apply and you don't see something, that means we haven't posted it yet. We have not posted, or maybe we have, the 2025 travel to training grants, because 2024 is actually still active.
No,
Is
we
that correct,
haven't. We
Alyssa?
haven't yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
haven't posted that yet. It's still the 24.
right. So it doesn't
No.
exist, but we will post that soon because we have the 2-month airfare deadline waiver and we're getting there. So anyway, if you've already applied, you're going to go to update because that's where your existing grants are going to be. You're not going to even deal with review unless you're on the review panel. Okay. Oops. Okay. This is what apply looks like. It lists all the funding opportunities. If it's got a little green edit, that means you've already started an application, right? You don't have to start a new one. You've got one going. This is what the update. So we have two different words. One is update on the home screen, and then, but it's also the same as my applications on the top menu item. I'm pointing at the screen. If you started an app, this is where it's going to be, and you're just going to edit it. So don't start multiple apps. Okay. You can edit and delete it up to the time you submit it. Okay. The apply screen will give the deadlines when the grant closes and you're cut off. Okay. Just technical tips. You need to save all the time because it doesn't auto-save. So many things are auto-save now. This was the biggest pain point when we first started this. People weren't saving and things were getting lost forever, all your hard work. Every grant has a template. It's a Word doc. Doesn't look like a template. Doesn't look like your basic template. It is literally a Word doc of all of the questions, and you can slice and dice and do whatever with that Word doc that you want. Right. I suggest you fill everything out somewhere else so you always have it, just in case you put it in community grants and don't save it and it goes away. Okay. Bottom bullet point, narratives can and do get cut off in community grants. So make sure that your nice, beautiful narrative that you wrote in Word is using the same type of word and character count that community grants is, because it counts everything, not just actual letters, words, and it counts spaces. And yeah, we see that a lot, that your beautiful narrative is just cut off. Okay, that's it for community grants. Any questions about that, the software? It's lovely. I love it. I've heard good feedback. Okay. This is subgrant application prep. Things that we recommend you do to prep. Okay. Look at the LibGuide. Like the LibGuide, everything is there. If you haven't looked at the LibGuide yet, it may be a little overwhelming, but if you've done a grant before, you'll get used to it. The LibGuide is my brain in action. This is how I've organized everything. And everything that you will ever need is going to be on here somewhere. If you can't find it, ask Alyssa or me, and we'll point you right to it, but it will be there. Read the pre-application guidelines. So it is not exhaustive, but it is meant to give you sort of a structural and legal overview of the application. Eligibility, allowable costs, the evaluation rubric, and a summary of the certifications. We'll go over those next. It's required reading. We ask you in the app if you've read them. If you don't click yes, then we'll ask you why not. Actually, you won't be allowed to proceed. Okay. Measuring success. So that's the framework. It is IMLS's structure. LSTA used to be a lot more free for all. It was a lot more narrative based. The structure was very broad. It got tightened up about 10 years ago, and this is what we're using now. And it allows all of the states, all 50 states and 6 or 7, 8 territories, 9 territories, to report their data in a consistent manner. Right. Also note that measuring success is project-based, so it's not for ongoing things. It's very standalone project-based. On here, K-12 library. So measuring success requires that a project align with the library's strategic goals. And if you are not a public library, then you use your bigger organization's strategic goals. Right. Okay. Project-based must be a documented community need. Projects are carried out through activities. Activities result in outcomes. Outcomes are measured. That is the bigger picture of measuring success. This is a closer look at the activity buckets. This also seems to be a pain point for new applicants. It's not always intuitive on what you want to do, how to make what you want to do fit into one of the pre-existing buckets. I put verb noun here because that's helpful to me. I don't know if it's helpful to you, but if you want to teach something, it's going to be instruction. If you want to buy something, a thing, it's going to be content or procurement. And if you want to do an actual plan, we're not talking about the process of thinking and planning and evaluating what you're doing because that's a normal part of your project. If you actually want to create a physical, digital thing that is a plan, that's planning and evaluation. Okay, those are the 4 buckets. We'll get back to them later. Oops. Sorry. A little bit about the legal. So everything is got federal, state, and local legal structures, legal frameworks around your projects. Alyssa will concern herself with the federal and the state requirements for the subgrant program, and you need to make sure you understand all of your legal requirements to write and accept a subgrant at your local level, right? We don't know that. We don't monitor that. We don't monitor who is your authorized certifying official. That's up for your local determination. We do not mandate how you do procurement. That's local, right? But just make sure you're following your local rules to do the work of the grant, okay? The federal certifications are in the pre-application guidelines. They're in there because I have learned that the people who sign the certifications are not necessarily the same people who write the applications and carry out the project. So you're writing the app, you're doing the project, you need to be aware of what the authorized certifying official has certified on your behalf, right? So they're in the pre-application guidelines. They're also posted on the assurance. There's a whole assurances list too. So when we actually do an award, there will be a webinar, I sign my name, what does it mean? And we'll go over what the certifications are, okay? In more depth, but read them now, please. Okay. And I'm just gonna put this here again. This slide, we'll revisit this slide when you're building your project. Please keep in mind these executive orders. Okay, so that's the prep. Now we're going to get into the structure. First thing is a more detailed explanation of start and end date means. We have posted project start and end dates of September 1st as start date, September 30th as the end date. For the mini grants, it's, I think, March 1st for the start date and date of September. That means we award you the funds. You have to operate your project within that time frame, right? If you have for any reason to start sooner, this rarely happens, but if you have for any reason to start sooner and have a retroactive July 1st start date, please consult with Alyssa. It's rare, but it's happened before, right? But generally you start September 1st. federal year ends September 30th, and we don't have the authority to allow your project to extend beyond that. We had to jump through a lot of hoops during COVID because we had supply chain problems, and get official approval from IMLS to extend the grant end date. We have been advised that that is not something IMLS wants to do, right? A little style advice. When you're writing the app, it's very narrative heavy. And that is because narrative is the best at storytelling. Storytelling is the best way that the evaluators can really understand what you're doing. I've read applications that are submitted to me in all bullet points, and I don't know what's going on, right? It's like the narratives are there for a reason. So just read this slide and think about the story that you're trying to tell. Um, AI, this is controversial, but use it sparingly. It uses a lot of water, but if you just cannot get started, if you're having a hard time getting started, use it to support you. Don't use it as a crutch. Okay, and be aware
Sulin,
that, yes,
so I wanted to add here, it's a good place to add that I'm going to
okay.
put a link in the chat to the SPR, the state program reports. You can, it's searchable at IMLS
Oh,
to
yes.
get some inspiration on all funded previous LSTA projects by state, by year. It's very searchable. Lots of, if you're searching for a makerspace project and want some inspiration, put makerspace in there, search it, and it'll come up with everything. So I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you, Alyssa. That is a good point. Start there first. I'm one of those very, very cautious people with AI, and I understand its uses. And yeah, everyone needs a little push sometimes, but start with the SPR. Excellent. Okay. Um, don'ts. Don't ask for construction. It's not going to be allowed. You can't use it to replace your local funding obligations. Please don't duplicate the efforts of an organization that's right across the street. Right? We don't like that. And first, number one, don't forget your target audience. That is a common thing that I see in subgrants, that you get so caught up in the project, you've totally forgotten that you're doing this project for your target audience. Okay. Um, Here are the sections. There are 15 sections, and it may seem like a lot if you haven't done it before. It's not. It These sections match with the final report that needs to be submitted. So we're already trying to get you into that mode of thinking of how you're going to do a final report in the so we try and steer you into the structure right away. And also it helps the reviewers, and it's sort of arranged by chapters, and there's a flow from the top big picture down to the minutia of the budget and the staffing and the timeline. Big picture goals, details. That's how it's structured. Okay. Sections 1 through 4, this is where you are going to tell your story. It's the lead in. You are going to let the evaluators know who you are. And when I say who you are, not everyone is familiar with every corner of the state. And don't make the evaluators Google you, right? That's making them do extra work. If you have a low population density, if you have like 1 person per square mile, that's a good thing to point out. If you're one of the largest counties in the state, that's a good thing to point out. If you have had a huge influx of immigrants, either from other countries or other states, that's a good thing to point out, right? Um, it's setting the story, it's setting the tone. Okay. Are you prepared? That's where we ask if you've attended this webinar and read the pre-application guidelines. Section 5 is the first big section, and it's worth 20% of your score. And when I read apps, this is the first thing I read. I read it really quickly, and then I try and figure out what's going on, and then I read it more slowly, right? But this is where you are telling us what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. Like the need, your target audience, your solution. the proof. We want proof that your need is real. Bottom, this is the only place in the application where evaluators get the big picture. So we were starting big, right? Big picture. The tips are super important. First one, don't force backward logic. Your project is a solution to a need. Your project is not a solution in search of a need. It is glaringly obvious when you've done the solution in search of a need, like super. Like I can tell they just want to do the project and they don't have a good reason why. You have to have the reason why, and then the project will flow. Yeah. Okay. So big picture. There are 7 required elements. They were never required before, and I was having a hard time following the apps. So when I do that first read and I don't know what's going on, and then I do a second deeper read, if I still can't figure out what's going on, they're color coded because I get my handy little highlighters out and I start highlighting things and I look for what colors are missing. And that usually will help me figure out, okay, what's going on here? This is what they're not telling me. If you ask me for feedback, the first thing I'm going to do is tell me, you're not telling me what your proposed solution is. Like, yeah. So that's why they're highlighted. If that helps you, if you're a visual person and need to highlight it, please do it. But these are required, and the evaluators in the training will be told that these are required elements. You've got to do a good narrative description of your target audience too. Okay. Let's say, number 1, a description of your target audience. Just saying toddlers, that's not enough. It's, toddlers who are homeschooled, toddlers who, have learning disabilities. I don't know, but a better description. Okay. So oops, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling around a lot. But that's the statement of need. It's the big picture. Okay, then the next section, we get a little more, keep funneling down, dialing in. It's the outcomes, evaluations, and goals. And the goals are, one of them's pre-built for you. It's one of our LSTA goals. You're going to select that and explain why your project advances the Nevada LSTA goal. Then you have to select your local goal and describe why this project advances your local goal. And it's got to be a goal that is strategic. It can't be just like, oh, we want to do this as our goal. Like that needs to exist in some planning document. Okay. Outcomes. Always remember your target audience. Do not ever say my library will benefit by having more people come in and then they'll know about us. That's benefiting you, not your target audience. Okay. Here's that big picture again. Goals, project to advance the goals, outcomes to measure how far we've advanced ourselves towards reaching that goal. Here are our goals. Pick one, anyone. So pick one of our goals and we'll be that much further towards advancing our strategic priorities and getting us to those goals. Okay, outcomes. You've probably heard of SMART outcomes. These are some of the outcomes: skills, enjoyment, attitude, values, behavior. It's some of them, it's not the only ones. I'm sure you can think of other outcomes, but they have to be SMART. They have to be measurable. Part of the structure of measuring success is giving you data that you are required to collect that can measure the outcomes, right? So we're trying to support you in measuring those outcomes, okay? And then they have to be realistic and timely and all of that. But activity data, circulation, attendance, page hits, records, surveys, all the data that you can think of that you're gathering will get us towards that goal. Okay. Summary, need plus solution. If the solution is your project, equals the outcomes advance strategic goals, right? It's all big picture. Section 7, we're Going further down, big picture, now we're about what, 20, 30, 10,000 feet? It's the activities. It's how you're going to do your project. It's those activity buckets again: instruction, content, planning, evaluation, or procurement. You've got to divvy up your activities into these four categories. This can be a struggle if you're new to this. We are here to help you brainstorm and figure out what you want to do, how what you want to do fits into these categories. Okay. Mostly, if you really think about it, I want to teach this stuff. If you want to teach someone, you're doing instruction. If you want to create something, you're doing content. Okay. Okay. To be a reportable activity, it has to be at least 10% of your time in your budget. So don't get too in the weeds. You can't have more than 10 activities. The application, I think, only has room for 5. 3 is about the average, right? Want to point out, very clearly tied to the budget, because the first thing I read is the statement of need, and then the second thing that I personally read is the budget to see how this project and this budget connect together. So I start at the top and then I go to the bottom and see how they all meet together. That's neat. Um, Here's a project deconstructed. The application starts big, goes little. The deconstructed starts little, goes big. Inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, right? But if you're a visual, this when I first started doing this flow chart really helped me. Okay. Talk again about the activity buckets. These are the activities, that mid-level thing that's going to collect the data that's going to lead to outcomes. Okay, there on the website is a link to all the data that you're going to need for all of your activities, so you can be prepared. And you can use this data to help you figure out how you're going to measure your outcomes. Okay. In the final report, we get a little deeper into things. You don't have to worry about it, but instruction, you can see there are 3 different types of instruction, a couple different types of content, right? So you can think about that, but we're not asking you to get this much detail, give this much detail in the app. Okay. Okay. Resources and timeline. So this is the who and the when. Who's doing the project? When are they doing it? It's a Gantt chart. I love Gantt charts. The biggest goof that I see here is that you either get too detailed on the Gantt chart or not detailed enough. So we are happy to consult with what should be on the timeline. But please do include all of your activities, all the outreach, all of that sort of thing. It really helps evaluators know the who and the when. Okay. And it's worth 5%. Partners get questions about partners all the time. For the most part, you're going to have informal partners, right? It's people who have said they'll support you. They become formal when you can't do the project without them. And I'm not talking about vendors. Vendors aren't partners, but if you have an organization who says that they're going to come and do this thing, or they're going to allow you to come to them and do your thing, we need a formal agreement, because without them, what happens to your project, right? We never require partners. Other grants do, but I have been on the ground doing grants, and I know how challenging partners can be. I know how challenging it is to require that you have them. So this makes you a little more nimble. Okay. If you have them, document them. That's always good, because then we have proof that LSTA funds are being leveraged in the community. Right? Okay, resumes. So this doesn't mean the actual resume, and I'm sorry, like this comes up a lot, and I usually giggle, but we don't need their resumes. What this means is we want to know how the staff who you list who are going to help do this project what their experience is in doing this sort of project, right? If you have a project that is, I don't know, if you're going to go build a makerspace, the staff who are doing it should ideally have some experience with doing outreach and programs and working with the public, right? Okay, promotion. This is required. It's absolutely required. It's on the certifications that are in the pre-application guidelines. It is so important now, especially when IMLS and LSTA funding is not guaranteed, that you document and you make sure your community knows that LSTA funded this program. May not mean a thing to them, but federal funds means a thing. Means a thing. Federal funds means it means something. You've got to share this, or we cannot guarantee that we can keep this program going forward. They're all the places you're meant to credit IMLS. A lot, but pretty much if you buy it with LSD funds or use LSD funds to do it, you've got to put the tagline on it. Here are some examples from the state library. The top one is from an email. The middle one, the next one is from our website. It's posted on the website. The newspaper nick is posted on a pillar. That sticker is actually on a chair because we bought some chairs and I made the project manager put stickers on every single one of them. If you don't want to put stickers on every single one of them, then you need to put a plaque or something. If you buy books, ideally, not ideally, you do put stickers in every single book. We can get you templates to put on stickers. We can do that. Ask us. Okay. Okay. It's also, so aside from acknowledging IMLS, when you're doing press releases, anything written, any bid solicitations, you have to do this. This is outlined in the certifications, but you have to recognize that federal money is being used. Okay. Now we're at budget sustainability. 20%. We've gone from the top big picture to in the weeds, the detail, the money. It's funny that it's the bottom because the money is the reason that we're all here, right? You are requesting funds to help you do this project, but the budget always comes last. And I said I read this first. Statement of need, budget. Nothing in the budget should come as a surprise. It should all make perfect sense. Evaluators should have gotten to this point, look at your budget and go, absolutely, I get what they're doing. Problems in budgets are either that they're too vague or they're so vague that they basically seem like a blank check. I need $5,000 for supplies. Like that is not going to work. You are going to need to, if not given, you don't need to give an itemized list, but you need to say what those supplies are. Okay. Again, if you have indirect costs, those are included in your total ask. They don't get added on to it. Okay. Yet 15%, you ask for $10,000. It's not $10,000 plus $1,500. It's whatever plus 15% equals $10,000. We can help you with that math too if you need. The sustainability question is really meant to let us know, because these are standalone projects, but they're meant to know what you have envisioned for what comes next, the next phase. You've done the project, what comes next, okay? These are some of the not allowable things. Classroom book sets, all of that on that line item, that is operational. That's why that's there. It's not that you can't buy books, but you can't buy things that are operational. Have to be specific for the project. There are multiple tip sheets. If you have a question about what's allowable, ask me or Alyssa. Okay. Again, the equipment over 10,000, that was a nice bonus this year. It will use some of the paperwork a little bit. Section 10 is innovation. It's only 3%. It will not fund you if your project isn't terribly innovative, but it's meant to encourage you to think about innovation. It's possible that moving forward in the years, if we still have LSTA, we'll make innovation a little bit bigger, but right now it's 3%. Okay. 11 is for attachments. This is not an exhaustive list of the attachments. You can upload as many attachments as you want to, because it's been structured now, right? You have to fill out and answer these questions. This gives you a little more freeform way to get your point across. If you do attachments though, make sure you label them. That's always a problem, often a problem. Attachments are just like, I don't even know what this is. What's this a picture of? So label them clearly when you name them. Required red, if you're using LSTA to fund salaries, you have to give us a job description. It's not, you have to, okay. Section 12 is technical. It's only 2%. This was a request of the evaluators. And it's meant to encourage you to put a little, read your app with a sharper eye, right? And then overall merit is worth 10%. This is the overall good that your project, the overall value your project brings to your community and your organization. It's possible to score very, very well in all the preceding spots, but the evaluators are just underwhelmed with the project as a whole. So this is the overall value that they see that this project brings to your community, right? I've got this lovely little dimensions of success document from Ripple. It is meant to give you an idea of a successful project. The evaluators will get this too. It helps them sort of frame what they think is value, right? So it's pretty much the only section that's subjective. Okay. And that's it for all the scored sections. The final section is the certification, where you certify that that you're going to just comply with all of our requirements. If you're doing a first draft, we don't need a signed certification, but we need something, so just upload something. Okay. Suggestions: have somebody who is not in the library world read your application, right? And even have someone else in your library read the application. The majority of the evaluators are in the library world, and sometimes they still don't know what your bigger goal is because they're not in your library world. They have different, backgrounds and experiences and libraries as a whole, or like their libraries are different. So have someone else read it. Use local data. Don't use nationwide data to point out a need in your community. You use as localized a data set as you possibly can. And then if you need help, please ask Alyssa or me for reals. Okay. And then, oops, oh, all right. I always run long. I should schedule these for an hour and 15 minutes. This is the peer review panel. If you know someone who wants to participate on the peer review panel, I encourage you to send them our way because we will be recruiting for a new peer review panel. It is literally what it says. It is a panel of your peers, and they will be reviewing your application and scoring and ranking. If you have someone if you know someone at your library who wants to be on the panel, that is not a deal breaker. They just will not be reviewing your application, right? It's fine. We are a small community. We would not be able to have a peer review panel if we excluded everybody who was involved in a library who is submitting an app. Okay. So the panel makes funding recommendations, and I think I have it here. If your project is approved and has funding recommendations, and the funding recommendations come from the peer review panel, you will be required to respond to the recommendations or you will not be funded, right? Honestly, their recommendations are usually very, very spot on. And the state library, we don't give any recommendations that are completely off the wall and not achievable, right? The state librarian does have the final say, Mike Strom. He generally does not go against panel recommendations. I can't identify any occasion in which he did not honor a panel recommendation. Okay. Did I skip anything? Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Wrap up. Again, here's that survey. You cannot possibly hurt my feelings. You can't. So if I'm a little too chatty, please say that. Alyssa will be reviewing the survey so that when she takes this task on, she can make it all better and incorporate your suggestions. I've read the surveys before. People are way too nice, right? We want to improve and make your experience as meaningful as possible in these trainings. Okay. Wrap up. Don't forget your target audience. Remember the LibGuide. Questions?
Before we do questions, I just want to say one quick thing.
Yes.
If this is your first time coming to the webinar, if this is your first time being exposed to the LSTA grant application process, I feel your pain. I've been learning this over the last 8 weeks, and I'm to the point where it's not overwhelming, but I remember what it was on the first couple of days, first couple of months. So please reach out to me. Start by reading through the Word doc of the application so that you really have a good idea of what is there. Then go do the LibGuide and reach out to me. I'm happy to set a 30-minute Teams working session with you to just brainstorm, answer your questions, whatever, outside of the required mandatory review. As many contacts as you need from me, so just reach out.
I want to say Alyssa's absolutely right. I've been doing this a long time, and this training used to be like a 3-day thing. It's all condensed down, throwing a lot of info at you, but it is really meant to be that big overview, right? Just so you know what's coming at you, and you have the slides, and then you have us for all of the deeper things. Yeah, you're not going to learn everything you need to know in this last hour. Okay.
And we don't want this to feel intimidating at all. So that's why individual work sessions, I think, are important if you're feeling overwhelmed. So give me a call.
Okay, who's got a question? No questions. Okay. Oh, Sarah, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, and a few more might come after we end this call. But just to clarify really quick, if we receive the IMLS enhancement or basic grant, we're still eligible to receive this LSTA sub-grant. Is that
Yep.
correct? Okay.
Completely different funding source.
Okay. And then for the SIPA requirement, so we have our tribal library draft policies ready to go before our tribal council for final approval this month, which will be passed by resolution. And it has the SIPA statement in there that says we will comply with SIPA, and then obviously take the steps to provide any other training to protect children who are accessing the internet, those things in place. So is that suitable for the SIPA requirements, or is there any other steps that we need to take?
So we can talk offline. There are steps. You have to have a public meeting, and it sounds like you have a public meeting. I think we just need to make sure that what you're saying that your tribe is going to adopt is the same as what we need. And it sounds like it. But
Okay.
yeah, and it's totally fine for you to not be SIPA at the moment, as long as you are SIPA by the time you apply and are awarded funds, if you are awarded funds. It's totally
Okay.
fine.
Okay, and then a couple more things. So the indirect cost rate I saw went up to 15%. Is that for all of, like, if we apply for the mini grant, the competitive grant, and the planning fund too? Or is
Yes,
it?
it's for anything that we offer for which you are the fiscal agent. It's not available for the individual travel to trainings where we reimburse the person. But
Okay,
yes. Mhm.
okay. And then for the 30-minute consultation, do we just email you and Alyssa directly?
You, so there's a link. It's,
Okay,
I prefer you to use that link because that goes directly to my calendar and then we don't have to sort out when times are free. But if you just have a basic question, call or email Alyssa because then, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
yep, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I'm gonna stop the recording. Thanks for staying 5 minutes after. Um, and stop the sharing. Wait, I can't stop the recording.